everyone, Saida here, nice to see you. So today I'm going to bring you a very special video. After a lot of pushing from my guides, I finally decided to make a video about my Starseed awakening experience. A lot of people don't know about it. I've told a few people over the years, but I've decided to become more public with this. One thing I want to say first though is that it's important to understand that everyone's experience is different. So all because I have an experience doesn't mean that yours will be the same, and there's always a reason for that, okay? So take what I'm saying as interesting, but don't make it the standard for what your experience will be like, okay? So just be open to that. I wanted to start off first by talking about how all of this began for me, and it started at a very early age. So this all started because I was born into a family that was already interested in spirituality. Like my mother was already interested in life after death and things of that nature. So how it started for me was an interest in things like that. I was also interested in Egyptian mythology, and I was actually interested in mental capabilities and powers of the mind at around 8 years old. I was also interested in art and things like that, but also I was interested in sort of like spirituality and metaphysical topics. So I was interested in telekinesis, telepathy, and what the mind was capable of. So it all started when I was 8 years old, being interested in things like that. And as I grew older, it further progressed into an interest in fairies and in earth-based religions such as magic and witchcraft. So it progressed into being interested in that. And I want to say too that a lot of things that piqued my interest or triggered that interest for me were actually things like film and books. And the thing is, that piqued my interest because my mother was a movie person. So we watched a lot of movies about different things. So when I watched certain films, it triggered an interest for me, or triggered me to be intrigued by whatever we were watching the movie about. So like The Craft, for instance. I was very blown away by that movie, and it guided me to be more to do more research into witchcraft and things like that. So over the years things kind of waxed and waned, and you know, when I started getting into earth-based religion, my mother didn't really like that sort of thing. Even though she was interested in it, it was different because I was her daughter, and I think she was a little intimidated as to what I was capable of at the time because of my interest in that. So I kind of backed off from it for a while. The Egyptian interest stayed throughout the years though, okay? So that always stayed, but the interest in the religion and the earth-based religion and ritual kind of eased in and out of my life for some time, okay? And as I got older, I grew up knowing that I wanted to help people in some sort of way. I really wanted to be of help and of assistance to people. So I decided to get into nursing, okay? So I got into nursing, signed up for the nursing program, and the first semester we talked about, you know, basic nursing stuff, but towards the end of the semester we learned about alternative therapies, alternative healing modalities, and one of the things that we talked about was Reiki. And at the time I had no idea what Reiki was, and I heard about it and I was like, huh, well that sounds interesting, that's something that I want to look into. So I decided to look into Reiki, and I found a Reiki master that would be willing to attune me distantly. So I started off with the first level of Reiki, right? So that was great. I mean, I felt peaceful. I was like floating on a cloud, right? So that was great. Now when I did the second level, that was something totally different. My life changed ever since the second level, okay? It was a complete transformation. The person that I was with at the time, my boyfriend at the time, you know, we were close, and I was actually very optimistic about the relationship and where things were going. However, one day I was out with him, okay? We were just coming back from having breakfast, and I looked at the clock, and I saw the numbers 11:11. It sounds very cliche, but I saw that number, and I didn't know much about that. I just know that when I saw that, things within me started to change. I started to shift. It was almost as if time had stopped. So something within me was being moved around and shifted around, and I just looked out the window in a daze, and I was thinking, what's happening to me? I didn't understand what was going on, but I know something within me was shifting. So when I did more research, I learned what 1111 was about, and I thought it was interesting, but still, I wasn't sure how things were going to move forward from there. Okay? Now, later on, I think it might have been a month or so later. Of course, I'm just going from memory. I don't really remember the dates and all that. But I was going through some sort of emotional release at the time. And after I was done crying and wallowing in my emotions, something came to me that said, you have to leave him. And at the time I was like, but why? Why would I have to do that? The thing is, it wasn't a regular thought. It was a shift in perception. Something within me changed that said, you have to leave the person that you're with right now. I wasn't given any reason. I wasn't given any kind of direction. I was just told, okay, you have to leave him. And from there, I was so anxious. I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, why would I want to leave my boyfriend? I love my boyfriend. It just doesn't make any sense. The thing is that I didn't take action on that. Well, it happened at some point, but at first I did not do what I was guided to do. And I kept getting guidance to do it through different venues. So like the TV would come on and I would hear something that would say, you know, now it's time for you to make the next move. And I'm like, oh my God, like, and that would cause more anxiety for me. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do it. So you could tell me as many times as you want that I have to leave my boyfriend. I'm not going to do it because I see no reason why. From then on, I had anxiety and fear through time, through maybe the next year or two, because I didn't do what I felt like I should have done. And I tried to make up excuses as to why I shouldn't be doing it. And at the time, I wasn't really in touch with my intuition. So I thought maybe it was a thought that maybe just kept nagging. I didn't know what it was, but I just knew at the time I wasn't going to take action on that. Okay? So from that point on, other things started to happen. Okay? So my family began to fall apart. And when I say my family began to fall apart, my connection with my family began to fall apart. My connection with my mom began to fall apart. We just were not seeing eye to eye, and it got to the point where it was becoming very toxic for me, to the point where I couldn't really talk to her or discuss with her certain things. And of course, with everything that was going on with me, I wanted someone to talk to, but I couldn't talk to her because, she just was not understanding. And it got to the point where she was just paranoid, and she wasn't sure or educated on what I was doing, and she didn't really want to hear about it either. So I had to keep all that to myself. And of course, I didn't want to talk to my boyfriend about it because I had to leave him. So I felt a bit alone. So I held a lot of stuff in for that time. Okay, so I had a lot of anxiety. And when I was in college at the time, so I took a yoga fusion class. And that opened up things for me a bit more because we started talking about chakras. And at the time, I didn't really know about chakras, so I did more research on that. And I started watching videos, reading books, and one day I was on YouTube. And I saw a video on the side panel, on the side menu, that talked about the Starseed indigo people. And I had no idea what that was, but it looked interesting. So I was like, okay, well, let me check this out. So the video went through different qualities of Starseed indigo people, what they're like, what their qualities are like. And at the time, I was like, oh, well, that sounds a lot like my brother and sister, because I have 2 younger siblings. So I was like, well, that sounds just like them. This is just amazing. So I was like excited about that. But then something in me wondered, is that me? Is that who I am? But of course, I was like, okay, nah. It's my brother and sister, we'll just keep it at that. Because I felt like the qualities were a little bit more obvious in the sense that, in the way that they pertained to my brother and sister at the time. So, I just left that alone for a bit. But then it kept kind of coming back. The interest was there. I started to watch more videos about it, reading more about it, trying to understand, who are the star people, who are star seeds. and I looked at certain characteristics and things like that. See, the problem with that was that certain lists that I was looking at, that listed characteristics, actually caused me to doubt what I was feeling. So that's one thing I want to say, is that all because you don't align with each and every characteristic of a starseed, that doesn't mean that you're not a starseed, okay? Everyone has their different experiences, as I said in the beginning, and there's a reason for that. So, now what happened was, I was in my room, okay, and I decided to go into a little bit of a meditation. So I was just lying there, you know, all relaxed and everything. And all of a sudden, in my third eye vision, what I would call it right now, at the time I wasn't really sure about that, but in my third eye vision, I see a being. He had a big head and very piercing eyes, and he looked just with such intensity at me. And I was like, okay. So I tried to kind of like push it away, like, okay, maybe I'm just making this up. But no matter how hard I tried to ignore what I was seeing, he wouldn't go away. And I started to get anxious, because the way his energy was being emitted was very similar to if a phone was on vibrate for like, let's say 30 seconds straight. That's what his energy felt like. And I started to get anxious because I started to feel that he had something to tell me. And I started to get afraid because I had already gone through so much transformation. I didn't want to hear anything else. So I got anxious. I'm like, oh my God, he has something to tell me and I don't know what it is. And I heard in my head, don't be afraid. And I got the impression that it was coming from this being that I saw. And I felt he was about to give me the message. And I said, no, no, no. Go away. I don't want to see you. I don't want to have anything to do with you. Please go away. So then he went away. He disappeared. So then I sat in bed for a bit and I was thinking about this. Like, wow, that was really interesting. Of course, I doubted it for a bit. But then I'm like, where did he come from? And why did he come to see me? To this day, I kind of regret not following through with receiving that message. Because I wanted to know from this being what it is that he wanted me to know. So I decided to do some research online about what different beings look like, and I was able to kind of settle on that he was from the Andromeda constellation, or the Andromeda galaxy. So I thought that was interesting. So I just put it in my back pocket, though. I didn't really focus too much on that. Okay. So from there, I kind of took a break from it, especially because I had so much stuff going on. I didn't really focus on that too much. It was just, you know, it was with me. From there, things just began to get worse. Things got worse at home and with my relationship. Everything just started to fall apart. And I became more anxious, more fearful, more emotional, until it got so bad to the point that I had to leave home. I couldn't stay because I was not in a place to be with the family that I was living with, because I had changed. I was a different person. I was in the process of transforming. So I could not stay there. The thing is, I tried to leave slowly, like maybe slowly pack my things, and I was going to go live with my dad. So I told my father about that. I was like, okay, so I'm going to, you know, bring some things to your house slowly and do that. That didn't work. It turned into a big mess, and I just had to leave in one day. It just turned into a really intense situation. I had to leave in one day. So I packed as much stuff as I could and left. My father picked me up and I went to his house. What was good about that was that I felt more freedom to be who I was. Okay, so I felt a lot more freedom to explore my spirituality on a deeper level, because I didn't have that fear of being judged or of being labeled as something that I wasn't. So that was great. But I still had the relationship issue. So that was still kind of plaguing me. I was so anxious about that. And that carried on further and further until something was actually done about it. So I would say it was the year 2014. At the very beginning of 2014, I lost my grandfather, and I was very close with him. That was horrible for me. I entered a very deep state of sadness, and I pretty much stopped doing Reiki and put my spirituality on the back burner for a while, because when I did Reiki, it brought up a lot of stuff for me. I would try to do Reiki like maybe every day, but when I did that, it brought up even more anxiety for me. So I put it on the back burner for the time. And I would say a month after my grandfather passed away, and I was in this really depressed state, my boyfriend decided that he didn't love me anymore. He didn't really want to be in a relationship. And so there was a part of me that was like, okay. So I decided to not take action. So things ended anyway, even though I didn't take action on that. But for me, that was a bit of a relief. It was very sad, but it was a relief at the same time. Okay, so that ended. That was done. And a few months after that, I saw an advertisement on, I think it was either Facebook or the web or something like that. And it was for the Intuitive Counselor course. And if you want, I'll put the link down below so you could check it out. And I was so excited about that because I've seen it in the past and I wanted to do it. And at the time I was working a small job. So I acquired the money to take it and I took it. When I took that course, I went through another big transformation, okay? Things opened up for me, and the star people came back. I was in a meditation, and I saw a vision of a star, but at the time I didn't know, but he was, of a being standing there with kind of longish hair, and he was very gangly, but I couldn't see the details. I could only see the outline of this person. And I wasn't sure who that was. I just know it was intense. And then after that, I was shown an image of writing. Just it kind of looked like a newspaper, but it was so close. It was almost like looking through a magnifying glass. And that was really intense because I felt like I was there, okay? Or that I would be sucked through a portal to be there. When I asked my teacher that was teaching the Intuitive Counselor course at the time what that was about, she told me that the being that you saw was a star being, and the writing that you saw was the Akashic Records. So we got to a point in the course where we were discussing mediumship. So she offered to do mediumship for every student in the course, to bring through anybody that we wanted to talk to or anything like that. So when she got to me, I was like, okay, you can just bring through anyone that you feel like bringing through. And when she did, she said, I have a being here. He says he's from the Pleiades. He's from the Pleiadian star system. He says he's been trying to get in contact with you for a while now. He wants to help you. They want to help you to carry out your mission. Because your mission is to help people understand that they are beings of light and to help people reconnect to themselves and to love. So that blew me away. That was crazy for me, okay? And it was from that point on that I understood what all of this was about. And I looked back on all the times that I doubted myself and what I felt I was, what I was supposed to be, okay? And that message confirmed a lot for me. I will say, too, that going back to remember I told you I did nursing, the nursing did not work out. I graduated, got my license and everything, it did not work out. No matter how hard I tried, nothing worked out. It became more of a burden, actually, than anything else, than an opportunity or anything. So I left that behind, and of course, there was a lot of disappointment, from, my father and my family. But it was important for me to live my truth. It was important for me to do the things that called to me. And I knew I wanted to help people, but through more self-awareness, the more I became aware of myself and my truth, the more I realized that I didn't want to help people by giving them medication or by driving a cart around a hospital all day. I wanted to help people spiritually. I wanted to help people to evolve. Okay. So after I did that course, I got more visions, more information. I actually was able to see 3 members of my star family come to me, one of them being a little boy. Okay, and that was quite intense for me. So I've had multiple visitations from that point, and they still continue to this day, and they continue to guide me. Okay, so at this point in time, I work as an intuitive counselor, but I also work as a starseed mentor to help other people understand their starseed awakening experience, or help them to connect to their star family. That's part of what I do. Okay, so I got another reading from a woman, and her name is Eva, and I'll put the link for her down below too, and she gave me even more information about where my soul came from and other abilities that I have. So after I started to acknowledge more of who I was able to receive confirmation after confirmation after confirmation until I was fully set in my purpose and my mission. Okay, so that was my experience. Of course, the journey is not over, but that gives you an idea of how things happened for me. And I just want to tell you not to doubt your experience, and not to doubt how you feel about yourself, not to doubt your calling, not to doubt what it is you feel compelled or called to do. So it is important for you to honor the call of your heart and to move forward with whatever it is that you feel called to do. And you will have to take enormous risks. You will. I had to do it. In some way, shape, or form, it might not manifest in the same way that it did for me, but typically what I've noticed with starseed people is that they have to sacrifice something. Whether it be their identity, whether it be their family, whether it be people that they once loved or cared for that they don't resonate with anymore. Sometimes that will happen, but as you transform and you shift in frequency and energy, you will be called to different people, to different places, to different career paths. So I hope that me sharing this experience has been helpful for you along your journey, and that you just follow your heart. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.